to settle on the priority of what,
Exactly.
you know, it's our building. So,
Exactly.
And
that would be
our
something
intent is
that I
too,
could...
that we want to maintain the historic or the architectural integrity of the building. You know, like the windows, we want the windows to be just as big as they are now.
Right, right.
And so, with that being said, you can't lower the ceiling way low in the building either. So,
right.
So I think the thing to do is, you know, you proceed with.
I think what we need to come up with prior to applying for the grant is what exactly are the priorities for the building, exactly how would you like to do it, how much is it going to cost, and come up with the total project cost and then where the match is coming from and how much we want to apply for the grant. So if we just go through and figure out exactly, you know, if we're going to get rid of the drop ceilings, if we're going to replace windows, if we're going to insulate, if we're going to do any remodeling, any of that sort of thing, you need to come up with a contractor's estimate on exactly what that's going to be so that we can decide, because once the challenge grant is received, they fully expect for us to move forward with it then. You know, it's not something that we can say, well, we don't really want to do this now, or we don't want to do that now. We really need to know exactly what our priorities are and exactly what we'd like to accomplish with that building. So,
looking at it, I think windows would be the number one priority. And
yeah, I would think so.
Give us some place to start. Look really bad.
And actually,
the roof's in pretty good shape, so that doesn't need to be done immediately. And we also the windows and moving the bathroom. Seems like that's, and then, you know, beyond that, you know, ceiling and lighting work and
we looked in that attic, in that crawl space above that. The ceiling that you see in that main room is a drop ceiling now. There's about 4 feet to the top, and the original ceiling was an all lath and plaster ceiling, which is, there's nothing left to it. So I don't know that there's any way that you can replace that unless you tear that out and sheetrock the original ceiling. But
and that's what the historic preservation end of things is what will help you receive the grant. If there isn't that historic preservation aspect in a grant, I guarantee we won't receive it. So, you know, if it's not a priority or if it's not a direction we want to go, then it wouldn't be worth wasting our time on it. Just, you know, so we're all aware.
We're you know, we were asking for priorities, and it seems like, you know, I hate to see we go through another winter season and have not done the windows.
Yeah.
I mean, if we can get those estimates, and I guess I would try and suggest urgency in as far as, because I hate to go through another winter without at least having that part of it updated. And, and when will you have more information as far as?
See, that's the hard part, is I'm guessing July is when I'll know about application times and when application deadlines will be, and then therefore when awards will be received. And then once we have received word that we have been awarded a grant, then an environmental review will have to be done. You know, this is all federal funds, HUD money, so there are certain steps that we will have to take before the project can begin. So it may be November before we're even available to put in windows. So, you know, the timeline isn't perfect.
are you saying that if we leave the ceiling that's in there now intact and just blow insulation on top of that, that won't?
I don't know. I don't know if that will, in their mind,
because
when they're reviewing the grant, if that will make it worthy of a challenge grant or not. It will be based on whatever the other applications are and how much money they have.
You have no indication of what's available as far as? I'm
guessing that there's about $1 million available for Main Street communities. And that's 43 communities that are eligible in the state for that $1 million. So what they're looking for, honestly, what they are looking for in this challenge grant is number 1, historic integrity, and number 2, energy efficiency. But the historic preservation is number 1 in their mind, because that The Main Street program is a program of the National Trust for Historic Preservation. So that's what their goals are. So in order to fit in with that, that's something that would have to be a priority for us too, in order to receive an award. You know, and if that's not our priority, then I would say, you know, we should just move forward with whatever we need to do to the building. But if we would like to take a chance at some free money, then that's the direction we would need to be heading. I mean, it would be possible for us to get $20,000 from the federal government for this. But we would have to be willing to put in $20,000 ourselves. So it just depends, you know, I don't know what you guys had in mind for project costs or, you know, what you wanted to put into the building. I have no idea. I just wanted to present it as an opportunity so that you were aware of it going into the project.
Well,
what would all be involved?
I guess in some of our discussion that we've had is we were looking at a several year situation that
phases.
Part of our 1 cent, local 1 cent, is targeted towards infrastructure type things, and that would fit that category. And this year we spent a significant amount of money on the roof, and as in the future, you know, we're going to kind of try and target some
absolutely
some projects, and so now I'm not quite sure what to think.
Yeah,
but,
and that's why I wanted to educate you about it, because, you know, there are strings attached, and it's whether or not it's worth it to go for it.
I don't think we had a dollar and cents figure. We were thinking more about projects, each separate, like the window separate, and the rest, without actually putting a dollar and cents to it.
Right.
Like we want to put the windows in first, and then do the next step.
Yeah.
And
How much money is available in that Horizons grant?
Well, the steering committee will have, and I'm not sure when we're going to have it, a total grant of $10,000 for and that includes all 5, or is that 6 projects?
Yeah, I believe so.
So, you know, that being said, we discussed the fact that there would be some money that would be available for this project, but it obviously wouldn't be the full $10,000 because we're supporting all the other programs too.
Then, in order to not guarantee, but make our chances better for that Main Street grant, we would need to consider removing that drop ceiling.
And it's not necessarily just the drop ceiling, but, you know, if you're going to do anything to the building, that you would make sure you're restoring.
Yeah, well, any window replacements would probably be vinyl, or I would assume vinyl. I mean, we wouldn't go back to a wooden.
And you wouldn't have to.
Okay.
Like size is,
that was,
you know,
I think that's what we talked about.
That we keep everything in proportion to what the building was originally. You know, that if you're going to replace the front door or anything like that, that you would replace it with something that would be typical of that era. You know, in that it would be a door with possibly a large window on the front, or whatever would have been historically correct for that building is basically what they look for. That you're not going to, you know, that if you were going to do something with ceiling, that you wouldn't actually replace a drop ceiling, but that maybe you would get rid of the drop ceiling and just repair the ceiling that's there. You know, if that's something you're going to do, that you do it in a way that would be historically appropriate.
Well, if we consider that option, you're then going back to a 10 or 12 foot ceiling?
Oh, more than that. The drop ceiling that's in there is 10, 12 foot.
10 or 12 foot right now.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to
And if
be
you
15
put in,
or 16.
And if you put in ceiling fans and do some things that way, I mean, I really don't think you're saving that much money with a drop ceiling.
But that doesn't guarantee we get the $20,000.
No.
Well, you mentioned there's an architect who's connected with the historical.
Through Main Street, Iowa, we have a design architect that is available free of charge.
Well, maybe we should meet with the board to give us some idea of what
needs to be done.
You know, we could say this is what we think of as historic preservation. You know, quality windows, energy efficient windows the same size. Maybe he could give us